I was sitting at my kitchen table when the pain started. Not the usual ache in my knees or the stiffness in my back that comes with being 72. This was different, sharp, radiating from the center of my chest down my left arm like someone was wringing out my heart like a wet towel. My phone was right there on the table. I picked it up with shaking fingers and called the first number in my favorites. Daniel, my son, my only child. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Mom, I'm in the middle of something," he said before I could even speak. "Daniel, I'm having chest pains, bad ones. I think I need—" "Mom, seriously, you called me for this. Take some antacid. You probably just ate something that didn't agree with you." I tried to steady my breathing. "No, honey, this is different. It hurts down my arm and—" "Mom, stop. I don't have time for this right now. Jessica and I are looking at apartments. We're about to meet with a landlord. Can you please, for once, not make everything about you?" The pain in my chest somehow got worse. Or maybe that was my heart breaking. Hard to tell the difference in that moment. "You just thought you'd interrupt my day with another one of your episodes. Remember last month when you were convinced you had food poisoning and it was just indigestion? Or the time before that when you thought you were having a stroke, but it was a migraine? Daniel, please. Mom, I love you, but you need to stop bothering me every time you have a little ache or pain. You're fine. You're always fine. Now I really have to go. Take some Tums and lie down." The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence. The pain hadn't stopped. If anything, it was getting worse. Tightness spreading across my entire chest now, sweat beading on my forehead despite the air conditioning humming away. I looked at my phone again. I could call 911. That's what you're supposed to do, right? But Daniel's words echoed in my head. "Another one of your episodes. You're always fine." Was I overreacting? Was this just indigestion? Then another wave of pain hit and I couldn't catch my breath. I grabbed my purse and my keys. My hand was shaking so badly it took 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. The drive to St. Mary's Hospital was only 12 minutes, but it felt like an hour. Every traffic light seemed to take forever. I kept one hand on the wheel and one pressed against my chest, as if I could somehow hold my heart together through sheer will. When I pulled into the ER parking lot, I sat in my car for a moment, part of me still wondering if I was being ridiculous. If I'd walk in there and they'd laugh at me, tell me I'd wasted their time over heartburn. But I went in anyway. The triage nurse took one look at me and her expression changed. Within minutes, I was in a bed with wires attached to my chest, an IV in my arm, and a blood pressure cuff that kept inflating and deflating automatically. "Mrs. Peterson, I'm Dr. Rashid," a young woman with kind eyes said, pulling up a stool next to my bed. "Can you tell me what happened?" I told her about the pain, about the tightness, about driving myself here. Her eyebrows went up. "You drove yourself? Is there no one who could have brought you?" I thought about Daniel, about Jessica and their apartment hunting, about being called a bother. "No," I said simply. "There wasn't anyone." She nodded, but I could see the question in her eyes, the same question I'd been asking myself for the past 3 years, ever since David died. When did I become so alone? "We're going to run some tests," Dr. Rashid said. "EKG, troponin levels, possibly a stress test. I want to rule out a cardiac event. You did the right thing coming in." A cardiac event, that's what she called it. Such clinical words for what felt like my body betraying me, my son abandoning me, my life cracking apart at the seams. They wheeled me away for tests. During the waiting periods between procedures, I lay in that hospital bed staring at the acoustic tile ceiling, and I started thinking, really thinking, about the past 3 years since David died, about how Daniel had moved back in with me temporarily after his divorce from Sarah, how temporary had stretched into 6 months, then a year, then 2 years, then 3, about how I'd added him to my checking account just to make things easier when he needed to pay bills while I was recovering from hip surgery. That was 18 months ago. I'd never removed him. About how he'd started treating my house like a hotel, coming and going at all hours, leaving dishes in the sink, bringing Jessica over and acting like I was the intruder in my own home. About the money. God, the money. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. My fingers knew the password by heart. I hadn't checked my balance in a few weeks. Daniel had always been good with finances, and after David died, I just let him handle things. It was easier than facing the pile of bills and statements that reminded me my husband was gone. The number on the screen made my breath catch, and not from chest pains this time. My checking account, the one with both our names on it, had $847.52 in it. I blinked. That couldn't be right. My Social Security and David's survivor benefits deposited $3,200 every month. It was the 28th. The deposits had come in. Where was the money? With trembling fingers, I scrolled through the transaction history. $1,200, Daniel Peterson Venmo transfer. $450, Daniel Peterson ATM withdrawal. $380. Daniel Peterson Venmo transfer. $280. Luxury automotive detail. $175. Daniel Peterson Venmo transfer. $520. Restaurant XYZ's, $340. Daniel Peterson ATM withdrawal. On and on it went. Pages of transactions, most of them in Daniel's name. The restaurant charges, the car detailing, the subscriptions to streaming services I didn't even use. All on the debit card I'd given him for emergencies. My entire month's income gone, and this wasn't the first month. I scrolled back. August looked the same. July, June. How long had this been going on? I thought about my own bills. My mortgage payment was due in 3 days, $892 a month. I didn't have it. My medication refills were coming up, $340 with insurance. I didn't have that either. But Daniel had money for car detailing, for expensive restaurants, for Venmo transfers to Jessica. My chest hurt again, but this time I knew it wasn't my heart. It was rage, pure and simple, burning through my veins like acid. A nurse came by to check my vitals. "How are you feeling, hun?" "I'm feeling very clear-headed, actually," I said. And I was, clearer than I'd been in years. I pulled up the customer service number for my bank and pressed call. "First National Bank, this is Kevin speaking. How can I help you today?" "Hello, Kevin. My name is Margaret Peterson. I need to remove someone from my checking account immediately." "Of course, Mrs. Peterson. I can help you with that. Can I have your account number?" I read it off from my phone screen. "Perfect. And who would you like to remove from the account?" "Daniel Peterson." There was a pause. "And may I ask your relationship to Mr. Peterson?" "He's my son, and he no longer has my permission to access my account." "I understand. I'll need to verify some information first." We went through the security questions. My mother's maiden name, the street I grew up on, the name of my first pet. "All right, Mrs. Peterson, I'm processing this now. Mr. Peterson will be removed from the account effective immediately. His debit card will be deactivated within the next 2 hours. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Yes," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "I'd like to set up alerts for any transaction over $50, and I need to order a new debit card since the current one is in my son's possession." "Absolutely. I'm setting up those alerts now. You'll receive text notifications for any purchase over $50, and I'm ordering you a new card. It should arrive in 5 to 7 business days. In the meantime, I can have a temporary card printed at any of our branch locations." "Thank you, Kevin. Is there anything else?" I thought about it. "Actually, yes. Can you tell me the total amount withdrawn from my account by Daniel Peterson in the last 6 months?" I heard typing. A long pause. "Mrs. Peterson, over the past 6 months, Mr. Peterson has withdrawn or transferred a total of $17,843.67 from your account." The number hit me like a physical blow. Almost $18,000. 6 months of my income gone. Thank you," I managed to say. That's all I needed to know. I hung up and lay back against the pillows. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The chest pain had subsided to a dull ache. They'd given me something for it, I think. But my mind was racing, calculating. $17,843.67 in 6 months. That was almost $3,000 a month. On top of living in my house, rent-free, eating my food, using my utilities, while I sat at home, rationing my medication because I thought I couldn't afford the full prescriptions. Dr. Rashid came back an hour later with results. "Good news, Mrs. Peterson. Your EKG shows some irregularities, but we've ruled out a heart attack. Your troponin levels are slightly elevated, which indicates your heart was under stress. What you experienced was likely unstable angina, essentially a warning sign. We're going to keep you overnight for observation and schedule you for a stress test in the morning, but I don't believe you're in immediate danger." "So I wasn't overreacting," I said quietly. "Absolutely not. Chest pain is always worth checking out, especially at your age. You did exactly the right thing coming in. Many people ignore these warning signs and end up with major cardiac events. You may have just saved your own life." I thought about Daniel's voice on the phone. "Stop bothering me. You're always fine." "Is there someone I should call?" Dr. Rashid asked. "Family who should know you're here?" "No," I said. "There's no one who needs to know." They moved me to a room for overnight observation. It was quiet, sterile, lonely. I lay in the dark, listening to the beep of the heart monitor, and I made plans. The next morning, I passed the stress test with flying colors. "Your heart is actually in pretty good shape," Dr. Rashid told me, "but I'm prescribing you a beta blocker to help manage the angina and prevent future episodes. I want you to follow up with a cardiologist in 2 weeks. And Mrs. Peterson? Please don't drive yourself to the hospital if this happens again. Call 911. I promised I would, but we both knew I probably wouldn't. When you've spent 3 years learning that you're a burden, you don't quickly unlearn it." They discharged me around noon. I stopped by the bank on my way home and picked up my temporary debit card. The young woman at the counter smiled at me sympathetically. Maybe she knew. Maybe Kevin had put notes in my file. Maybe she'd seen this story before. An elderly woman, a son with too much access, a belated awakening. When I pulled into my driveway, Daniel's car was there. My stomach dropped. I wasn't ready for this conversation. I'd hoped to have more time. But I couldn't sit in my car forever. I walked in through the front door, and there he was in the living room with Jessica. They were looking at something on a laptop, laughing. "Oh, Mom, you're home," Daniel said casually, barely looking up. "Where were you?" "The hospital." That got his attention. His head snapped up. "What? Why?" "I had chest pains yesterday, when I called you." I watched his face carefully, watched the calculation happen behind his eyes, the weighing of whether he should feel guilty or defensive. Defensive won. "Mom, you said yourself you have these episodes all the time. If it was serious, you should have called 911, not me when I was busy." "I did think it was serious, Daniel. That's why I called my son. But you told me to stop bothering you. So I drove myself to the emergency room." Jessica's face had gone pale. She was looking between us like she'd walked into a movie halfway through. "And?" Daniel said. "What did they say?" "Unstable angina, warning signs of potential heart issues. They kept me overnight." "Well, obviously you're fine since you're standing here, see? You always think everything is an emergency when it's not." I felt something inside me snap. Not break, snap. Like a rubber band stretched too far. There was an almost audible pop in my head. "I need you to move out," I said. Silence. Complete, total silence. "What?" Daniel finally said. "I need you to move out of my house. You have 60 days. That's more than fair." "Mom, what are you talking about? Where is this coming from?" "Where is this coming from, Daniel? You've been living here rent-free for 3 years. You've treated me like an inconvenience in my own home. And yesterday, when I needed you most, you told me to stop bothering you." "Oh my God, Mom, you're really going to hold that over my head? I was busy. I apologized." "You didn't apologize, not once. Not yesterday, not today." "Fine. I'm sorry. There. Are you happy? Now can we drop this?" "No, I want you out in 60 days. Jessica stood up. "Maybe I should go." "Yes," I said. "Maybe you should." Daniel glared at me as Jessica gathered her things and hurried out. The front door closed behind her with a soft click. "Are you happy now?" Daniel demanded. You just embarrassed me in front of my girlfriend. I embarrassed you? Daniel, do you know what I discovered while I was lying in that hospital bed? What, Mom? What did you discover? I discovered that you've taken almost $18,000 from my account in the last 6 months. The color drained from his face. That's not, you don't understand. Then explain it to me. Explain the card detailing, the expensive dinners, the Venmo transfers. Those were bills. I was paying bills for the house. Really? Which bills? Because my mortgage hasn't been paid in 2 months. I checked this morning. My medication has been rationed because I thought I couldn't afford it. But you could afford a $300 dinner at Restaurant XYZ? That was a special occasion. Jessica's birthday. You expect me to never do anything nice for my girlfriend? I expect you not to do it with my money while I go without my heart medication. Daniel's jaw clenched. Fine. You want to know the truth? Yes, I used some of your money, but you owe me that, Mom. After everything I've done for you, do you know how hard it's been taking care of you since Dad died? I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Taking care of me? Daniel, you've been living off me like a parasite. Oh, that's nice. Real nice, Mom. After I moved back here to keep you company because you were so lonely and depressed. You moved back here because Sarah kicked you out and you had nowhere else to go. And I've been managing your finances because you clearly can't handle it yourself. You've been stealing from me. It's not stealing if it's family. That money would have just sat in your account anyway. What else were you going to do with it? You don't go anywhere. You don't do anything. Why? Because I couldn't afford to. Because you took everything I had. We stood there, facing each other across the living room. My son, my only child, the baby I'd rocked to sleep, the toddler I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd stayed up late worrying about. When had he become this stranger? I removed you from my bank account, I said quietly. Yesterday, while I was in the hospital. His expression changed. You... what? I called the bank and had you removed. Your debit card won't work anymore. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then, Mom, you can't do that. I have rent due tomorrow. Jessica and I are putting down a deposit on an apartment. I need that money. Then I suggest you use your own money. I don't have any other money. Everything I have is in that account. Everything you have was my money that you stole. It wasn't stealing. We had a joint account. That means the money belongs to both of us. No, Daniel. It means you had access to help me when I needed it, not to drain my life savings while I go without medication. His face was red now, veins standing out on his forehead. You know what, Mom? Fine. I'll move out, but don't come crying to me when you can't figure out how to pay your bills or balance your checkbook or any of the 1,000 other things I've been doing for you. The only thing you've been doing is taking, and I'm done being taken from. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch. I can't believe you're doing this over a misunderstanding about your stupid chest pains. This isn't about the chest pains, Daniel. This is about 3 years of being used, of being dismissed, of being treated like an ATM machine instead of your mother. Whatever. I'm going to Jessica's. I'll come back for my stuff later. He stormed toward the door, then turned back. You're going to regret this, you know. When you're sitting here all alone with no one to help you, you're going to wish you hadn't burned this bridge. I'll take my chances. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames on the wall. And I was alone. I stood there in my living room, in my house, in the silence, and I felt light. Like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know was there, and suddenly it was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. I tried to pay rent and my card was declined. Thanks a lot. Jessica and I are going to lose the apartment because of you. I didn't respond. Another text. I can't believe you would sabotage my life like this. I blocked his number. Then I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd felt those first chest pains, and I made a list. A real list, with pen and paper of everything I needed to do. 1. Pay mortgage, call bank about late fees. 2. Get all medications refilled. 3. Change locks. 4. Consult lawyer about stolen funds. 5. Update will. 6. Schedule cardiologist appointment. 7. Call David's sister Helen. Haven't talked to her in months. I started with the mortgage. The bank was understanding about the late fees, especially when I explained I was elderly and there had been some confusion with my account. They waived the penalties. Then I went to the pharmacy and got all my medications, the full doses, not the rationed amounts I'd been making do with. The pharmacist smiled when she handed me the bag. Good to see you getting your full prescriptions, Mrs. Peterson. Had she known? Had she noticed when I started only filling half orders? Over the next few days, Daniel tried calling from different numbers. I didn't answer. He sent emails. I deleted them. He showed up at the house once when I was out getting the locks changed. The locksmith's van was in the driveway when I got home, and I found Daniel's old house key on the porch, bent nearly in half. He must have tried it in the new lock. I consulted a lawyer about the stolen funds. She was a sharp woman in her 50s named Patricia Holloway, and she listened to my story with an expression that said she'd heard it all before. Mrs. Peterson, I'm sorry to say this is more common than you'd think. Adult children with access to elderly parents' accounts. Do you want to pursue charges? I thought about it. About Daniel's face on the news. About a criminal record. About being that kind of mother. No, I said finally, but I want a legal document that states he is not entitled to any portion of my estate. Nothing. Not the house, not the savings, nothing. I can draft that for you, but understand he could contest it. Let him try. Patricia drew up the papers. I signed them. I had them witnessed and notarized. Daniel had 60 days to move out, and after that, he would inherit exactly nothing. I called Helen, David's sister, that night. We drifted apart after David died, not on purpose, just the way these things happen. She answered on the second ring. Margaret, oh my goodness, how are you? And somehow I told her everything, about Daniel, about the money, about the chest pains and the hospital and the decision I'd made. I expected judgment. I got support. Good for you, Helen said firmly. I love my nephew, but what he's been doing is elder abuse, plain and simple. David would be furious. We talked for 2 hours. When we hung up, we'd made plans to meet for lunch the following week. The 60 days passed slowly. Daniel moved out gradually, taking his belongings in stages. He never came when I was home. He'd text from unknown numbers, coming by at 2 p.m. for my stuff. I'd leave the house, go to the library or the park or just drive around, and when I'd come back, more of his things would be gone. It was like watching a ghost pack up his life. On day 58, I came home to find the house completely empty of Daniel's presence. His bedroom was bare. His toiletries gone from the bathroom, the spot where his car always parked, vacant. I should have felt sad. I felt relieved. On day 60, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered, Mom. It was Daniel. His voice was different, smaller. I need to talk to you. About what? About everything. Can I come over? Every instinct screamed no, but he was still my son. One conversation, that's all. He showed up 30 minutes later. He looked thin, tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where this had all started. I lost the apartment, he said. Jessica and I broke up. I'm staying with a friend right now. I didn't say anything. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I treated you, and He stopped, swallowed. I'm sorry. For what, specifically? He looked up, surprised by the question. For taking your money, for living here and not contributing, for telling you to stop bothering me when you were having a medical emergency. Why did you do it? I don't know. I guess after Dad died and after my divorce, I felt like my life was falling apart, and it was easy to just let you take care of everything, to fall back into being your kid instead of being an adult. And then it just kept going, and I convinced myself I deserved it somehow, that you owed me for keeping you company, and he shook his head. There's no excuse. I was selfish and cruel, and I'm sorry. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I saw the truth in his eyes. I also saw the calculation, the hope that sorry would be enough, that we could reset and he could move back in, and things could go back to how they were. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully, but it doesn't change anything. What do you mean? I mean, you're still not getting access to my accounts. You're still not moving back in. You're still getting nothing in my will." His face fell. "Mom, I said I was sorry." "And I heard you. But sorry doesn't give me back $18,000. Sorry doesn't erase 3 years of being used. Sorry doesn't undo you telling me to stop bothering you when I thought I was dying. So what? We're just done? You're really going to cut me out of your life? I'm not cutting you out. But our relationship is going to be different now. You're going to have to earn back my trust. And that's going to take time. A lot of time. How am I supposed to do that? That's something you're going to have to figure out yourself." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I really am sorry, Mom," he said quietly. "I believe you, but I'm also not your safety net anymore. You're 46 years old, Daniel. It's time you learn to stand on your own." He left shortly after that. No slammed doors this time, just a quiet goodbye and a promise to call next week. I don't know if he will. I don't know if we'll ever have a real relationship again. I don't know if he's genuinely sorry or just sorry he got caught. But I know this. I did the right thing. It's been 3 months now since that day I drove myself to the hospital. My heart is stable, my medications are managed, my bills are paid. Helen and I have lunch every Thursday. I've even joined a book club at the library. And when I look at my bank account and see that money sitting there, my money, I feel something I haven't felt in years. I feel free. Someone asked me last week if I regret what I did, if I wish I'd handled things differently. I told them the truth. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. Because here's what I've learned. It's never too late to stop letting people take from you. It's never too late to reclaim your life. And it's never too late to remember that you matter. Even if you're 72 years old, lying in a hospital bed with chest pains, and your son has just told you to stop bothering him. Especially then. That's when you pick up the phone and take your power back.